Welcome back to another epidose of these crazy people that just eat meat and can't stop talking about it. So today, got some special guests. Joe Zumbo's back. Janice is back. And after a long gap, we got Bart back. So I thought we'd record a little something since we got our pals from Australasia on the screen and see what everybody's up to. So
Can you guys hear that fly that's buzzing around in my office?
no.
Oh, that's all right then. I'll ignore it.
Yeah,
flies. Incredible. Sorry, Tom, carry on.
can't see it, can't hear it. Not worried about it.
Good.
Is it one of those blue ass flies you were talking about?
Yeah, it's a big ass one. Yeah, bloody thing.
So, anyways, Bart, if you don't know, he's busy correcting people that are wrong on the interwebs every day. How many videos you getting out a week these days?
I am trying to stay up around 4 a week, not counting the Saturday US time live stream that happens Sunday morning for those of us in Australasia. So 4 or 5 a week. Yeah.
4 or 5 a week. That's ambitious.
Yeah, it's busy.
So Bart's like a professional full-timer. I'm the weekend part-timer guy. So
Welcome to our.
So anyways, I got to say, Bart, when I started doing this, you were my first allies, one of my first people that gave me advice, did videos with me. So I've always been a big supporter. I always thought of you fondly, and I was glad that we got a chance to catch up today.
Yeah, me too. It's been too long. It's yeah, I'm just too busy, really. But
Right.
Love you all. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I've used that excuse myself more than once. So anyways, Joe was chatting about a little subject there. Joe kind of made a transition from cycling to running, and he was recently watching a video with Zach Bitter and who was the other guy?
Dr. Dan, someone, I can't even pronounce his last name.
Dr.
Fuse, I think it is. Yeah, so he's I think he's a New Zealand doctor or researcher. So, yeah, and they're just talking about how you need to consume for endurance athletes some carbohydrates. Up to about 120 grams of carbohydrates.
And,
yeah,
I've got to disagree. Even if you are an endurance athlete, if you are properly adapted to a sensible carnivorous diet, the exact requirement for you is exactly the same as it is for the general public in terms of carbohydrate intake, and that is not 1 single gram ever. Gluconeogenesis takes care of it.
Okay, so what they did say in regards to that is that the demand is not fast enough.
That would be true if you're not properly adapted. And the only way to make yourself not properly adapted and to slow down your adaptation is to be consuming carbohydrates, which are contraindicated and unnecessary.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I think Bart just hit the nail on the head there and put that to bed. Because I've started running. I've got my first half marathon coming up, and look, all my training is done. I don't eat carbohydrates. I don't eat during my run. I don't even stop to drink during the run. I don't need to. I salt load before my run, and I'm sweet.
Yep.
So Bart, have you been doing any working out lately?
I have started my workout regimen or regime, if you like. Let's use regime.
Regime. Why not?
Yeah. Ted's been cracking the whip. He has, and he said that's enough recovery. That's enough sitting around the house feeling sorry for yourself. For those who don't know, I ruptured my Achilles tendon 14 weeks ago.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Yeah. And, I had already been basically untrained for, well, really the last 5 years while I've been building my YouTube empire and stuff. It's been 60 hours a week, frankly, sat on this bloody chair doing recording videos, editing videos, making all of those things happen. And as a function of that, the detraining was such that I'm literally stood on pipe cleaners. So you look at an image of me from the waist down and the glutes are gone, the hammies are gone, the quads are gone. Literally, that's like 2 pipe cleaners with my upper body just propped on. It looks comical. It's crazy. And then you add the ankle, well, Achilles injury on top of that, which slows down, doing pretty much anything with your lower body. And it's been another 14 weeks of even less activity. So it's like, oh, really? Anyway, yesterday was my first day actually doing a proper circuit, 3 sets of for hamstrings, quads, a bit less on the gastrocs and all of that, because I still have to be a bit gentle with this ankle. But yeah, the program has started. So today I have proper DOMs for the first time in, oh God, forever.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, nice. So the training has begun, and I am retraining and remusculifying both upper and lower bodies over the next 6-8 months is my plan, to get back to where I was sort of 10 years ago. Yep. So that's my focus physical wise, and getting out and about and amongst it. So yeah.
How about you, Janice? You got some new activities?
Yeah, I'm training, I guess we'll call it. I just joined a gym a couple days ago, and I've gone to 3 yoga classes and a spin class so far. So
Nice.
Nice.
well, but I wish my legs were like pipe cleaners.
No, you don't. Not well. If you were a middle-aged man, maybe. But yeah, because the thing is, your upper body development seems to fade more slowly than lower, so it's unbalanced. It's like you've got. Well, I've got. I'm not muscular by any means, but I've got some development in the upper body and not much fat to speak of, so the muscularity is reasonably clear, such that it is. And then suddenly you get to below the waist, no ass, no legs, just a couple of pins. Literally, I'm not kidding you. It looks very strange indeed. So we'll deal with that.
I thought we were all operating under that carnivores have we have muscle without having exercise.
Well, nobody is going to have unnatural or not unnatural development beyond your normal untrained musculature unless you train. It doesn't matter what you eat if you don't train. I mean, there's no diet of food related items anyway that's going to take the place of training. You still have to stimulate your muscles to grow to where they would naturally sit if you didn't train.
Yeah, maybe people who are on a carb heavy diet don't have quite as much muscle as their equivalent on a carnivore diet, but you're not going to get particularly large unless you stimulate those muscles all the time,
Yep.
So it's that thing. I mean, muscle tissue is expensive, so your body's not going to have any more than it needs. So using them is really just kind of creating that need and requiring your body to adapt or respond. Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah. It's all about getting in there and using them. I'm kind of surprised, Janice. I thought you would have just nice slender legs. Why do you think you don't have ideal pipe cleaner legs?
I don't know. It's probably just one of those female things, but
probably.
My brother used to make fun of me all the time.
Oh, it's his fault. That's what it is. It's your brother's fault.
Yeah. I always wanted like slim legs,
Somebody would teased you.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right.
No, now I want muscle. I want like tone, but like I just want to be like, like basically not so much fat and more muscle,
If you guys haven't seen it, you should watch the video that Marge did with her trainer. Her trainer obviously uses a fair amount of steroids. She's got more muscle than the average girl who lifts, that's for sure.
Or man.
She's got more muscle than most guys, for sure.
Yeah. She's a bit jacked.
Mhm. All right. So how's everybody's eating going? You guys all eating the usual suspects?
Yep. Beef.
Yeah. You
Yep.
got beef wandering around right outside your door, right, Bart?
Yep, that's right. Well, there are 2 cows that live here on this property. And the farmer that owns the property tells us that they're a mother and calf. The mother is going to be food later this year. And she's been the provider of cows on this property for a few years now. I think she's about 6 or 7 years old, and she's had, I think, 4 or 5 calves. Between us, we ate one of them over the last 12 months or so, because we're lucky enough to be offered some of the meat and get to share some of it. So that's awesome. The dogs enjoyed some of it too, and they perhaps also enjoyed having the last laugh, because this particular cow was always one that would come up to the fence and challenge these 2 puppies that we have and try and tell them he's boss and stuff. And I'm quite sure they didn't understand that they were having the last laugh, but they were. Yeah.
So Joe, you've been out to see Norm at the meat station to get some
I
steak?
have. Yep, I got some beautiful strip loin. Grass fed, grass finished, spectacular strip loin. As you guys know, I've moved away from the ribeye or the Scotch fillet, and yeah, I think the New York strip is where it's at for me.
Do you notice your eating habits need to change any when you went from cycling to running?
Not really. I actually probably, yeah. I tend to eat 3 meals now. So I think if I'm going to get along running, see, cycling, you can just sit behind a wheel and just draft along, or whereas running is a high impact sport. So my heart rate's always a lot higher. There's more intensity involved. So therefore, I've got to fuel myself a little bit more. Not fuel.
Yes, fuel.
And Janice, what about you? You picking up some new activities? You planning on changing how you eat at all?
I don't think so. I mean, I've also moved away from ribeye by necessity, because Costco, I was getting the prime ribeye and they stopped carrying it. And then I would move to like the prime New York, and then they stopped carrying it. And so now I'm doing short choice New York strip. So, I mean, I don't think I'm doing enough to increase what I'm eating. I always eat a very hearty amount. So
yeah, you've been doing some fancy dining lately, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
Been treating yourself.
I've been going to steakhouses by myself and eating like really good stuff, like prime rib, steak tartare, and just trying steaks all over the place. So yeah, good stuff.
So you anticipate? Go ahead.
Not changing anything either, Tom. Ted's not going to change a damn thing. He's going to keep eating the same way too.
How about you? With the new activity, you gonna need to eat a little more there, Bart?
No, not really. I'm a 1 meal a day man. Have been for years. I'm working off a small frame. I'm 5'6" and 140, dripping wet. So I don't need a lot of food. So I'll sit down to a 500 gram steak a day, for example, and that'll top me off and do the trick until the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. Perhaps when I start training more, I might get hungrier, but at the moment, there's no need for any more food than that.
Yeah,
that sounds like nothing.
I'm always a little jealous of people who just eat one time a day. How convenient would that be?
It really is. It's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you,
So-
Tom?
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to sit down and have it put in front of you as well, it's even more convenient. So that's awesome.
Yeah, another reason to be jealous of Bart.
Yeah. So Tom, tell us about your intakes. What's going on?
You know, a slow day for me, you know, calculates out to, you know, at least 3,500 calories, you know, and I never was really good at eating a big meal. So as many times I tried to do OMAD or even eating twice a day. It's just, I didn't like eating that much at one time. And then if I have a more active day, I'm up there around 5,000 calories. I actually had one day where I burned 10,000 calories, was active all day from early till midnight and then some. So, you know, I eat frequently. You know, when you work out too, you know, who wants to work out with a stuffed gut, you know? So, yeah, I eat pretty frequently. So, at least 3 times a day, if not 4.
Now, Tom, I'm sure you must be aware that C word you've just been throwing around there is a word that's a red rag to a bull for me.
Yeah, you know, it's the best unit we got, as flawed as it is, you know.
Do you think so?
I don't know, until somebody else comes up with a unit that I can communicate with other people with.
Sure.
That's all I got.
I'll tell you what I find personally out of all of that is that once a person is properly adapted to a carnivore diet, and once they're properly adapted to an eating schedule, be that OMAD or 2MAD or 3MAD or whatever it is for that person for their needs, what I'm finding is this. The hunger signal that your brain gives you, geez, I'm hungry now, and the signal it gives you when it's had enough food, geez, I think I'm full now, I should stop eating. Those two messages that your brain will give you are vastly, hugely more accurate than any human imposed metric of any kind on so-called intake of food, be that whether you think about food as energy or whether you correctly think about it as what it actually is, mass. There's no need to measure anything. And what I've been communicating to people is exactly that. Measurement is not your friend. You don't need to measure. If your diet is appropriate in terms of its makeup, i.e. muscle meat, and I mean muscle meat, not organs, muscle meat, associated fat, butter, if you like, additionally, salt and water, then the I'm hungry and now I'm not hungry signals work really well in terms of what your body needs nutrient-wise.
I don't disagree about that. I think
Yeah,
particularly when you go to the carnivore diet, that hunger and satiety signals are much clearer than they ever were before. Because I think the rest of the time we were all in some sort of digestive distress. So
you bet. And I usually finish that line of thought and then I'll shut up about it by saying to a person, anyone who's prepared to listen, why don't you go and find me a cave painting of people with their calculators measuring their intakes?
there's got to be one somewhere.
You'll find it right beside the pictures of people sitting down to big plates of salad. And right next to that, you'll find the images of hunting men diving at woolly mammoths with their mouths open so they can tear their throats open with their sharp, pointy teeth like this.
Well, let me overcomplicate this with personal drama.
Oh, Jesus. Go on, Tom.
So really, I mean, the reason why I measure stuff, well, I don't necessarily measure what I eat in a day, but I realized at some point that I wasn't eating enough. That was causing a problem. And then I was kind of shocked to find out how much energy I was consuming. Right. So I don't buy meat based on the caloric content or anything like that. But I also eat almost all my meals away from home, except on the weekends, because I got to take it with me. I sit in traffic. I'm at work for long hours. And if I didn't have some idea ahead of time of what I was going to buy and prepare and when I was going to eat it and work it in, because you work a typical job. It's like you're supposed to take a lunch break and then you might have a other break or whatever. But I have to opportunistically feed. Otherwise, I get to the end of the day and I'm really hungry and I want to go to bed and I don't want to eat. And then of course I don't keep progressing at the gym if I'm not getting enough food in. That's the other problem. So I think part of that is that because I have to eat so much and I'm eating more than everybody around me, so you kind of lose sense of the scale of what you're doing because you see somebody else eat just a normal meal. Of course nobody around me is eating meat all the time, but anyways, for me, it was important to sort of measure it out so I could solve the long-term logistical problem. And then, of course, when coaching, I wind up with people. A lot of them are very large. They have eating disorders. They have fat phobia. And when you kind of break it down for somebody, it's like, look, you need 2,500, 3,000 calories roughly worth of fuel. That's roughly this amount of fat. You can't be afraid of eating that fat. And for some people, quantifying it is sort of a comfort and kind of alleviates their anxiety. Otherwise, you never get to that point where they're comfortable just eating to hunger. But also, when I deal with other busy working people, I have to say, look, man, you got to prepare your meals and have them with you. Otherwise, you're going to be driving around doing your job and you're going to stop and eat some garbage, right? And then you're going to feel like garbage. So
Here's one for you. I don't track calories, but I do track my protein intake.
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
I always say to people that you should start with your protein. And if for the first few weeks of being a carnivore, if you do need to measure this out, fine, until you get a visual guide of how much meat is that. Once you've got that, you can do it visually and you won't need to measure anymore. But the starting point, the sweet spot for most people is going to be 1.75 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. And if you're not sure what your lean body mass ought to be, what you do is you take your height in meters and you multiply that by itself. So in my case, I'm 5'6", which is 1.68 meters. So I take 1.68 and I multiply that by itself, which gives you 3 point whatever it is. And then you multiply that by the ideal body mass, which is 22.5. And that will tell you what your ideal weight in kilograms ought to be. You take 1.75 times that weight in kilograms that you've just worked out, and you multiply, and you then multiply that by 4 to get a weight of raw meat, not counting the fat.
yeah, that's a good tip.
So that's
Yeah,
it.
I think
Your sweet spot will be 5% plus or minus on that. And then you eat to satiety with fat. Sorry, Joe, you were going to say.
Yeah, I think Tom and I have discussed this many times in the past, and I think we've said that I think for people that are quite active, between 2 to 2.5 grams of protein per body weight.
Okay, fine. I would say that is fine if a person is really quite active, very active. The cross check is to keep a track on your FBG and your A1C. If either of those drifts up over time and keeps drifting up, then you need to cut that protein back.
Okay.
Because excess protein will immediately stimulate gluconeogenesis, and then that will show up in your FBG and or in your A1C. If your A1C remains below 5.6 as a carnivore, and your resting glucose is 100 or less, maybe up to 110. There's no evidence that 110 is damaging in terms of long-term on a carnivore diet. Then you're okay. If your blood glucose gets up to 120, 125, if your A1C starts getting towards 6, cut your protein back.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you might be getting a little more gluconeogenesis than you want, right? Your blood sugar is going to stay higher, and yeah.
Well, I
Good
mean,
as-
I just did a full panel with Dr. Mason, so
Nice.
everything come up good. So
Right. Well, in the case where something is not broken, Joe, don't fix it. If
Yeah.
you're eating much protein and your A1C
Yeah.
is good, G is good, cool.
but I think, as I mean, I know that you've worked with a lot of athletes. Even though you say don't fix it if it ain't broke, the thing is you're always looking for the edge. So you're always
Optimal.
experimenting.
Yeah.
You are, like I am. I'm always trying to work out how I can get that little bit faster, whether it be, carbon plated shoes, or whether it be us sleep a bit longer, or just try not to stress during the day, and talk to you guys.
As a runner, same thing as a cyclist, as far as I'm concerned, or any other kind of athlete, really. And that is, if you're looking for something that is likely to increase your performance that nobody else is doing, and that will work if you apply it correctly, I suggest 2 things: less volume, more intensity. Athletes, especially endurance athletes, tend to overdo the volume vastly, hugely. It's pathological. They can't help themselves. It is a form of mental illness.
It is.
Yeah.
100%.
I know, Joe. I've dealt with athletes.
But I'm just, because the thing is, if you might go out and do 400 Ks, then you want to make it 500 Ks, then you make it 550, 600. You want to try reach that 1,000 K a week.
Yeah. Why?
It's like, and all you're doing is just bullshit junk Ks most of the time.
Yes. Because the
Instead
only
of
way
going out there and really doing what you should be doing.
Exactly. The only way to do more volume is to do that at an intensity below where you would want to be competitively. So if you want to run competitive half marathons, for example, ain't no way in a purple fit you should ever run more than half marathon distance in one day, ever. And in a week, you probably don't want to do much more than half marathon distance. What you really want to be doing is 2 or 3 or 4 maximum sessions, actually at an intensity above your competitive pace for that half marathon for a shorter distance. For example, go and do 10K once during the week, 5K 3 times during the week, and get that done fast. Run that as fast as you can so that you are caved at the end of it. That will be vastly better for your performance than running hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Ks, which will only tear you down and slow you down. And this idea that your ability to undertake endurance running better because you've done all this miles, this base of it's rubbish. It's nonsense. It's not physiologically underpinned. It's not scientifically based. It's a have.
Well, I mean, you never recover.
That's it. Exactly.
Actually, just quickly, just a bit off topic. What do you think of the math method?
The math method. Tell me more about that.
Was it 180 minus your age?
Oh, right. For your heart rate.
The heart rate, the maffetone method.
Yeah, they call it the math method now. It's
maffetone, yeah.
Okay.
Because I'll throw a scenario out to you after your response.
It gets you somewhere near, but it's not necessarily all that accurate. I mean, classically, it used to be 220 minus your age for your maximum heart rate. Then they worked out that actually a better sum is 209 minus 0.7 times your age in terms of its error of assessment. None of that takes account of individual differences, genetic differences, all of that sort of thing. Some people's heart rate maximum is just not the same as others. So there's always an error in it. I've always been a fan of assessing an athlete individually on their capabilities. But you tell us what you wanted to say.
Okay, so I tried. Okay, so 220 minus your age, right, would give me 180 is my maximum heart rate, or 185. Okay,
Right.
The problem with that is I train with a heart rate monitor.
Mhm.
My maximum heart rate's 217.
Right.
I did
So
and then I tried to do the Maffetone method, and I think it was, from memory, it was 180. It's sort of like 135 I should be training at.
Right. Okay.
Okay. I did a 30-minute all-out test, and my average heart rate was 199 beats a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
So it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, you know.
Yeah. I would never.
None of those methods work for me.
No, in a purple fit, I would never set an endurance athlete training based on a heart rate zone, even if I was using their heart rates.
Yeah.
I would set you training based on your critical power or critical velocity.
So my friend is a running coach, and he's coaching me, and I'm running at pace, not at heart rate. So
Yes.
we worked out my zones for pace, and that's what I run at.
Okay. I would look into, if you haven't already, I would look into getting your critical velocity assessment undertaken. I can talk to you about that behind the scenes if you like.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Tell you how to do it. It's.
And if anyone out there wants to know more about it, contact Bart as well.
Absolutely. Yep. Fine. And I'll tell you about critical velocity for runners and how to work it out. You should always run at your critical velocity or above, never ever below it. And if you don't know what that is, you're probably running below it.
Yep.
Anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
There you go.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the difference in the nuances between hypertrophy or just bodybuilding and strength training, because it seems to me that real strength is developed at a faster pace than just building larger muscles. So when you're lifting, you actually need to lift quicker. Whereas when you want to get those muscles to bulge, it seems to work if you do it slower. But the endurance seems to build better at speed. So when I'm lifting, I try not to get my heart rate up too high, but for the most part, I lift a lot faster than everybody around me. They're camping out, looking at, staring at their phones, waiting for something to happen. And I've already done any sets and I'm out the door. So,
but your recovery is probably amazing as well, Tom, because of being on a carnivore diet. It allows you to do those repeat sets so quick.
Yeah, and I do, specific things each day. I would do a different group every day. I'm not taxing my whole body, and I've been doing it for a while. So I do seem to recover really quick. So it's not like the old days where I do leg day and I could barely walk to the car,
Yeah.
So, and I don't have muscle pain, or I have a little bit of soreness always, but it's not like the old days where there was all kinds of joint pain and muscle pain all the time, swollen tendons and stuff like that. So how long are you going to be playing cricket again, Bart?
Yeah, I will be fit for cricket, I think possibly at the start of the new season, which is in September time.
Nice.
I was curtailed about halfway through the last one. And I obviously, with that injury, it's like, that's the end of your season, you're done. So, yeah, frustrating as hell, but these are the things sent to test us. That and vegans and people that want to be wrong on the interwebs. Yeah.
Yeah, we always have that entertainment to look forward to, don't we?
Well, as long as I've got the energy to do it, I'll keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
In whatever format.
Yeah. Did you ever get anywhere with that study you were kind of talking about doing Who was that with? Man, trying to
It was
remember.
with Dr. Joel Kahn. Just kidding.
I forgot who that was. Do you remember? You remember the conversation I'm talking about?
I don't, Tom. I have a lot of conversations with a lot of very handsome people. So
Yeah.
even someone as handsome as yourself, Tom, I sometimes forget what we might have talked about 6 months ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was. It had something to do with the one of the Seventh Day Adventist studies.
Oh, right. Yes, right. Yeah, it was about. I was asked to fill in, and it was Eric Westman.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That asked me, and I suggested that we might want to write a letter to the editor, because what they did in that study, we're talking about the Adventist Health Study number 2, that purported to show that there was a dose-response relationship in terms of death from all causes, cancer specifically, heart disease specifically, diabetes-related things specifically, et cetera, all the big killers. And the study said that the more meat you eat, the more you experience death from all causes and from every one of those sub-causes as well. And the study genuinely published that and genuinely said that's the case. More meat equals more death. There are very few people who are actually competent to look at one of these data sets, the raw data, and actually do an analysis and see what it really did say. That's how they get away with this. They just publish it. Oh, fine, whatever. I did an analysis on their raw data. Their raw data showed the exact opposite of what they reported. The highest rate of mortality from all causes and from every sub-cause was in the group that were vegans. The first quarter of meat consumption had less mortality. The second quarter, less again. The third quarter, less again. And the fourth quarter, i.e. the people that ate the most meat, had the lowest representation of mortality in that study. Those authors adjusted their outcomes 180 degrees out of phase with reality to suit their ideology. It was done by the University of Loma Linda, the Seventh-day Adventists, to suit their funding, to suit their ideology, their theology, their spin doctrine, their propaganda, and to make the priests of the High Church of Anorexia Vegana happy. They lied.
How did these bastards get away with it?
Because they do a procedure where they mathematically alter the outcomes that were observed to however they want to, and most people don't understand what they've even done. And as such, they go, this is above my understanding, ergo it must be good science, and we'll publish it.
Their study, their expectations, their publication. So
yeah. And they also rely on the fact that most lay public people, perceive science as to be above reproach, squeaky clean, absolutely ethical. And why would the good adults at science lie to us?
Yeah, and I live very close to Loma Linda, so I've met quite a few Seventh-day Adventists, and they're very nice people, and they do a lot of nice things. They have programs to help people stop smoking and drinking, and they tend to be pillars in the community and stuff like that. But I like to remind people that this whole concept that their dietary choices are based on came from a girl named Ellen G. White, who got hit in the head with a rock, went into a coma, woke up and said, oh, by the way, I got a message from God. He said we need to eat this Garden of Eden diet, and it basically involves no meat and blah 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 blah, and a whole sort of Christian sect spun off from some other Christian sect and became the Seventh-day Adventists. And so they think they're operating under an edict from God, and that Ellen G. White was a prophet. So consider the source.
I take my instructions from Ted.
Yes, we know.
We just had Earth Day, right? And at work, they have this huge celebration where they serve all of this vegetarian stuff. And that day I had made my New York steak, and I thought of going over and sitting there and eating a whole steak at the event, but I didn't. But that's one of the things I hear the most when I tell people I eat only meat, is they just go immediately into, oh, the climate and the planet can't support everybody eating meat, and like immediately shaming me for, basically destroying the planet based on my selfish need to eat meat.
Mm. It's nonsense, of course.
Yeah, you should just remind them, right? There used to be millions of head of bison that roamed around North America, right?
You bet. Yep. The Indians used to do well with them.
Before that, it was mammoths everywhere.
Sorry, I shouldn't call them Indians. They're Native Americans, aren't they?
They are.
Yes. What a bigot.
A lot of them still call themselves Indians, so you can't really win on that one.
Or anything else, Tom.
Right.
I'm not allowed to win on anything, frankly.
Yeah. So anyways, it's been animals roaming around everywhere since the beginning of time. And anybody who thinks we don't have enough land to graze cattle on, you just need to drive across Kansas, because it's an endless sea of prairie grass, just for hundreds of miles. You can't believe it. We clearly have more than enough room just in the United States. And this is prairie land that's not fit for growing anything else. There's limitations to where you can grow, based on slope and how rocky it is and stuff like that, and how much water there is. But there's plenty of land to graze cattle. That's why there was so many bison, and then that's why there were so many mammoths before that. It's because that's just how nature evolved, right? All this grass grew, and animals to eat the grass came along with it. And with them comes a greater food web with more animals and more birds. Yeah, interestingly enough, I forgot what podcast it was. They're talking about how the Audubon Society was kind of excited about this, because when you put cattle back on the land, the birds come back. So a lot of the rare endangered birds that seem to be disappearing were actually repopulating areas that were occupied by cattle. So, little by little, I think we'll gain support, and we'll get a better understanding when it comes to Earth Day, exactly how wrong everybody got it.
Yep, absolutely. And the other thing, even if we weren't correct about it being entirely ecologically sustainable, and we're not wrong about that, at the end of the day, the fact that you exist was out of your control. The fact of your species, Homo sapiens sapiens, is out of your control. Your biological requirements and needs nutritionally are not affected by ethics in any way, shape, or form. End of discussion.
Right.
Yeah, and there's hard evidence that we've been eating all these animals, because we left trash piles and deposits of bones. I don't know if you've seen the news, but here, North America, particularly in Mexico lately, they've just find mammoth trap after mammoth trap every time they break ground on a new construction project. So, and of course, we've seen all the mammoth bones that are dredged up off the coast and found in the permafrost in Siberia. What was that, Joe?
The tar pits.
The tar pits. Yeah, I took Joe to the La Brea tar pits. Have you ever heard of that, Bart?
I have heard of it, yeah. Where they find all sorts of animals that have fallen into these tar pits over millennia, and they find what's left of these animals and can find out all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, there's great big supplies of tar underneath Los Angeles. That's why the record companies came here, because they would pump the vinyl out to make records. But there's this tar pit that's been active, that broke ground, millions of years ago. And it's exactly right. They have excavation pits there where they pull out the bones. Yep. They've got a museum. So Joe and I got to go see that recently. It's great.
Awesome. I mean to come and visit you stateside at some point. It will happen.
Love to have you. Go hit some concerts. Maybe hit the tar pits.
Yeah,
you'll have a blast. That's for sure.
I will.
Yeah,
for sure.
And probably rope Janice in. She doesn't live that far away.
Cool.
She lives north of Los Angeles a bit, but I live not too far from LA. So
maybe we can all catch up. I'm always looking for an excuse to come back over.
You should go there, Tom.
Oh, I can't wait to go to Australia. I'd love to go. I want to
And New
make
Zealand.
time for
New
that.
Zealand.
Yeah, well, might as well go to New Zealand too. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
New
might
Ze-
as well.
I mean, New Zealand's probably one of the most beautiful countries on the planet as far as what I've seen.
Yep.
And I wouldn't mind going kayaking and seeing a great white jump over
Jesus, yeah.
in the lagoon down the street.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me know when you and Dread Pirate Pim are ready to hop the pond.
You bet.
Yeah. All right, guys. We got any parting shots? Anybody? I think we're coming up close to an hour, so I figure you guys probably want to wind up.
Wow. Already, that was quick.
Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, I better race off and do the next thing. Always a pleasure to catch up with you folks. As I say,
Likewise.
I don't spend as much time as I'd like to with this kind of just chatting and shooting the breeze and whatever else.
Right.
Mostly because there are so many people so very wrong on the interwebs.
I hear you. Yeah, it's not like the old days. So, but anyways, thanks for calling, Bart, and we'll keep in touch like we always do, and hopefully we make some more videos together.
Beautiful.
And let me know if you want to write a paper on that Loma Linda study. I'll drive down the freeway and interview somebody if you like.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming. And until next time, eat some meat, feel better, and whatever you do, don't fall down that seventh
the
day
carb hole.
Adventist hole.